everyone. We're going to give it about 30 seconds or so to allow folks to file on in from the waiting room. While we're waiting for everyone to get in, let Candace and I know in the chat who your favorite all-time rap artist is. So as an icebreaker in the chat, for those comfortable doing so, no obligation, but if you'd like to do so, let us know in the chat who your favorite all-time rapper is. And we will get started in about 15 seconds. Let's see if anyone breaks the ice. All right, well, while folks are mulling that over, we'll get started. My name is Robert Hayes. I'm the Community Outreach Librarian and Head of Technical Services here at the Tewksbury Public Library. And tonight, I'm really excited to have Candace with us. But before I get to that, I want to thank our sponsors, which is the Friends of the Tewksbury Library and the Corning Foundation, which is based here, Corning Life Sciences, based here in Tewksbury. But more importantly, in addition to those, we've also partnered with several libraries as part of a collaborative called Libraries Working Towards Social Justice. And those libraries, which provided some financial assistance and some promotional assistance, include libraries in Andover, Groton, Lawrence, Lowell, North Andover, North Reading, and Wilmington. So we're all part of a collaborative that's been working together over the past year or so on programs either directly or indirectly related to social justice. And that's, we want to thank them for their assistance. Excellent, Lori. Appreciate the comment. Thanks for breaking the ice for us. So we will get started here. Just to note that I am recording tonight's presentation. We cannot see you or hear you at home, so the camera is only going to pick up Candace and I. I will be sending an email out to everyone who's watching live on Zoom, as well as those who registered who could not attend. Email tomorrow morning with a link to this recording in case you want to watch it again. A link to a feedback survey, so please fill that out and let us know what you thought of tonight's event and what you'd like to see for future events, and I will share all those results with the partnering libraries. And I'll also provide you with the link to purchase a copy of Candace's book. So look for that email tomorrow morning, probably around 10 a.m. And then finally, to set expectations, I anticipate tonight's program lasting approximately an hour. We're going to have, I'm going to interview Candace. I have some hard-hitting questions for her. And in addition, we'll then take questions from the audience. So I would encourage folks throughout the presentation to type questions into the Q&A. And I promise we'll get to as many as possible at the very end of the presentation, probably around 7:45 or so. All right, so it is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce Candace McDuffie, who is here to talk about her new book called The 50 Rappers Who Changed the World, a celebration of rap legends. Arguably one of the most mainstream music styles today, rap was in fact born centuries ago in West Africa with historians or griots who used to tell stories of the past over the beat of a drum. But it wasn't until the 1970s in New York that rapping as we know it was born and began to flourish. 50 Rappers Who Changed the World profiles some of the genre's biggest influencers from the 1970s until present day, from Bronx-based legends Afrika Bambaataa and Grandmaster Flash in the 70s to Run DMC and Public Enemy in the 80s, Biggie, Tupac, Snoop in the 90s, and Eminem and Jay-Z in the 2000s. This is a history of music for anyone who loves rap, featuring MCs like Mel Mel, West Coast legends including NWA and Ice-T, and countless women who changed the game like Salt and Peppa, MC Lyte, and Missy Elliott. And today we find ourselves with a new breed of artists who are dominating the charts, from J. Cole to Kendrick Lamar, Logic, and Cardi B. Filled with stylish illustrations and a short biography of each artist, this book is a celebration of the musicians who shaped the genre and changed the world. And I have an abbreviated bio for Candace. So Candace McDuffie is a respected cultural critic and music journalist who focuses on the intersection of race, gender, and entertainment. Her written work has been featured on digital platforms such as Rolling Stone, MTV, Forbes, Grammy.com, Paper Mag, Entertainment Weekly, Glamour, Vibe, Tidal, Marie Claire, the Christian Science Monitor, and Boston Magazine. And again, I just want to thank the Corning Foundation and the libraries working towards Social Justice Collaborative. So all of us here watching live on Zoom, let's give a big virtual round of applause to Candace for joining us here tonight. And Candace, thanks so much. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to join you guys and talk about the book and how much it means to me, how much rap culture has really meant to me throughout my life. So I'm just really happy to be here. And I just remembered that you said you saw the book during the Boston Book Festival.
That's correct.
And I have the clip that I submitted. So maybe I can share that with the audience, they get a better feel of the book and the pictures and the story behind it, and then we can start the conversation, or should we do that a little bit later, you think?
No, that's great. I just changed the settings, so you should be able to share your screen, Candace.
Okay.
So feel free to cue that up if you'd like.
Sure. So I participated in Boston Book Festival a few years ago, and they asked me to do it again this year, but it was virtual. They were excited to have me because I just released this book, and I thought, you know, making a video would be a great way to show the illustrations. And I had my editor, who's based in London, talk about the process of selecting me to write the book. So I think it'd be a great starting point. So I'm going to try to get this all queued up.
Sure.
Hopefully I don't mess it up too bad.
No worries. And while we're doing this, Jamie says, so excited for this. Thank you for hosting this virtually. Lori says, I'm so clueless. Oh, great. Excellent. You got it. Perfect.
Okay. So let's close this out. Try to make this a little bit bigger. So this is just some background on the book.
Wanna smoke with me? Then turn this mom up 800 degrees. Yeah, chefs, cause she's a train fly. She's so bougie, I'll never take. I'm a savage, attitude nasty. Talk big, but my bank account match it. Hood, but I'm classy. Rich, but I'm ratchet. Haters.
When I was approached by Hardy Grant to write 50 Rappers Who Changed the World back in October of 2019, I knew it was an amazing opportunity to not only show how rap culture has changed America, but how Black culture has changed the world. And I really wanted to make that the focal point of the book.
Classy, bougie, ratchet, sassy, moody, nasty, acting stupid, what's happening? What's happening? I'm a savage, classy, bougie, ratchet, sassy, moody, nasty, acting stupid, what's happening?
Hardy Grant is a non-fiction publisher, and we see our strength lying in creating beautifully packaged gift books. Our old publisher, Kate Pollard, came across Candace's work in an article, and Candace's style of writing piqued her interest straight away.
Hips tick tock when I dance. On that demon time, she might start her OnlyFans. Big B and that B stand for bands. If you wanna see some real, baby, it's your chance. I say left cheek, right cheek, drop it low and swing. Texas up in this thing, put you up in this game. I be talking my frame.
From that small clipping, we knew we had to have her on our list, and so that's when we started a conversation with Candace about creating a book to sit in our 50 People Who Changed the World series. The series celebrates the lives and work of people in different walks of life, and we thought that it was about time that we explored the lives of rappers.
One of the best parts about writing 50 Rappers Who Changed the World is that it was viewed and used as an educational tool in schools, homes, and libraries.
I be talking my frame, gang, 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 gang. If you don't jump to put jeans on, baby, you don't feel my pain. Please don't give me hype, write my name in ice. Can't argue with these lazy basics, I just I'm a leader, I pull up in my two-seater. It's here from Tina, I'm a savage.
50 Rappers Who Changed the World came out last autumn, and it has already been incredibly well received. Candace has gone above and beyond in publicising the book, and it's a real testament to her that it has performed so well already in both the US and the UK.
50 Rappers Who Changed the World was featured in publications ranging from the Boston Globe and WBUR and Glamour. But one of the best and the most Blackest moments of my life happened when Hennessy honored me with a privileged toast because of the way 50 Rappers Who Changed the World really honors diversity. and Blackness within the culture.
Savage, classic, bougie, ratchet, sassy, moody, last, acting stupid, what's happening? What's happening? I'm a savage, classic, bougie.
My ultimate goal for this book is for it to stand the test of time. For people to look back on it 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and regard it as a true relic for hip hop history, and something that will always pay homage to such an important and vibrant part of the culture. Yeah, so I thought that would give a really good background and an overview of the book and what it's been like publishing during COVID and still having it be so well received. So I want to share it with you guys before we start.
No, I appreciate that, Candace, and that really your comments in the video sort of encapsulate why you chose to write the book, which was probably going to be my first question anyway, and that was great. So wonderful video. So I guess to start, Candace, can you talk a little bit about the origins of rap music? And I know, at least sort of Americanized rap, started in New York City, which is about 200 miles away from where most of us are watching you tonight. So can you talk about the origins of rap for us?
Sure. As you mentioned earlier, it was birthed in New York, in the Bronx, in the 70s, in the hood. Black people were suffering disproportionately, economically, socially, and politically. And they needed an outlet to kind of express their hardship and experience. And that's how rap was born, which is crazy to think about, right? You have all these pieces of it, from the beat making to the breakdancing to the MCs, the lyricism. And really in rap, we saw, duality, right? Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight, I think it was the first rap song to chart. And that's very fun, very jovial, very playful with the words, and very upbeat. It was a party song. And then you have, Grandmaster Flash's The Message, talking about poverty in inner cities, talking about systemic racism, talking about police brutality and racial profiling. And they really examined how social classes kind of work and are structured, and the discrepancies between Black people and other people in this country is so undeniable that they really needed rap to express how they're being affected by the way the world treats them. So I think for me, I never really understood it until I was a little bit older. I grew up around rap, and my brothers played rap, and it was always around me. But when I got older, I realized, it was born out of necessity. And, the bonds formed, and, all these things happening within it made it really beautiful to participate and to appreciate.
Candace, did you grow up here in Massachusetts?
I'm from Albany, New York. Okay. So I was born in Harlem. I moved to Albany, New York. I was in Massachusetts for the last 14 years, and now I live in Chicago. So it's been a ride for me. But I think just seeing it in different iterations, different stages over the years has been really phenomenal to criticize and to respect and to talk about.
Sure. Now, can you talk sort of generally about the impact that rap music has had on American culture?
I mean, I think, Black culture and rap culture is American culture. We see it in the language and the terminology, the catchphrases. We see it in the fashion. We see with the baggy jeans and the Timberland boots and the do-rags and the bandanas. You see it in politics, rappers like Kendrick Lamar cozying up to Barack Obama, or, Kanye and Donald Trump. You just see it in all facets of American culture. And I think, honestly, it's a mirror of American culture. A lot of the problematic facets of rap arise from American culture, whether it's violence, whether it's colorism, whether it's misogyny, all that is embedded in America itself. So I feel like rap is a really good way to kind of analyze where we are now as Americans, both past and present, and the future too.
Now, your book spotlights 50 of the most influential rap musicians in music history. What criteria did you use to determine which artists made the cut?
It's hard, right? You want to stay true to the genre and true to what you know. I'm a fan of everybody I put in the book. But at the same time, I have a publisher, we want to sell books. So I had to have it be a combination of, newer artists and older artists. And, I wanted to highlight women as much as I could, even though it's a male dominated genre. But there were so many things that went into picking the artist. And initially it was just me picking it off the top of my head. They were like, just name 50 influential rappers. I'm like, okay, I've made a list. And it was longer than 50, but, I had to stick to the criteria of the book. So doing that, it was difficult. There's in the back of the book, we have mentions, they wanted 10, but I asked for 20 because I wanted to highlight as many artists as I could. And on the cover, I have my book with me. On the cover, you see that there's 6 rappers. Oh, yeah, they do. There's 6 rappers, and we had to talk about it. Like, I wanted it to be 3 women and 3 men. I wanted it to be a mixture of older rappers and newer rappers, but they had rappers they wanted on the cover already. So we had to kind of go back and forth with that. But they were really great when it came to, how much creative control I had over the book and how much input I had. But it's a lot to do now. And, one of the things about rap that I love is that people love to argue about who's the best MC, who's, the most influential, the most popular, the most, famous, the most well-known. And it's always a great catalyst for conversations about music. So it was great to kind of partake in that custom, really, in literary form.
And speaking of that very question, I wanted to ask you something similar. I'm gonna make you choose. So who is on your Mount Rushmore of most influential rap artists? You've given us a list of 50, but if you only had to choose 4 or 5, who would you choose and why?
I think people know that I'm in the Jay-Z hive. I'm a Jay girl. I think, him being hip hop's first billionaire and, his empire, his reign when it comes to clothing with Roc Nation, with managing artists, with Tidal, to even his marriage with Beyonce and doing On the Run and making all the money from the tours and the joint albums, like very visionary. I used to be in the Kanye hive, it's really painful for me, but his influence is really, really relevant. You saw that he sold out the stadium in Atlanta for his album listening last week. And it's just him in the middle of the floor on the stadium, just standing there playing his record off an iPhone, sold out the whole stadium. So I think his influence and, his impact is still there, with the fashion and, his high profile marriage to Kim Kardashian too, like a lot of it. So Kanye, I think, is really influential. I think Drake is super influential, and it's so funny because there was a conversation earlier, I guess it's been happening every time Drake has a hit record, they talk about, he popularized singing and rapping, and it's never been done before. But I'm like, no, guys, you just didn't pay attention. Like, people have been doing that. But, from his dances to his videos to his, his language, he's very influential. And I think Cardi B too. I got a lot of flack about putting her on the cover. She's a new artist, she doesn't have that many records out. But her impact is undeniable. Her trajectory from stripper to reality star to rapper to really successful rapper is crazy. Like, I wouldn't have predicted that. So I think her influence is really palpable in hip hop. That's 4. I'm trying to think of 5. I like Missy Elliott a lot. I think her creativity, her video treatments, her sound, like sonically, it pushes the envelope. And I think she doesn't get enough credit for being so creative as she's been in rap. So I think she's my 5th one.
Excellent. Thanks, Candace. I know that's a tough question. And you also mentioned in one of your previous answers that, the rap industry is very male dominated. Mm-hmm. So why do you think that's the case? And can you talk briefly about some of the female rap artists that kind of broke the glass ceiling? Prior to reading your book, for example, I was not familiar with Roxanne Shanti or MC Lyte.
Mm-hmm. I mean, misogyny is in all facets of the music industry, right? And women are still relegated to certain roles, certain looks. They're expected to sound and look a certain way, act a certain way, behave a certain way. It's not just rap. It's all genres of music, really. And I think, rap is so blunt about it, and it's not really trying to hide anything. So it's in your face. And I think for my book, I know it's hard to be a woman, to be a Black woman, to love rap. because a lot of the songs, can be offensive or degrading or, just really disrespectful to Black women. So I wanted to make sure that I put a lot of Black women in the book. It was really important for me to honor their contributions, and to have Left Eye and Cardi and Little Kim on the cover meant a lot. Roxanne Shante was the only female in the Juice Crew, alongside Big Daddy Kane and Biz Markie and Marley Marl. Like, she held her own. I got to interview Marley Marl a few months ago for Spin Magazine. He talked about like how he was impressed and how she was out rapping everybody, and she was 14, right? Like, if you don't hear about her enough, she had a biopic on Netflix, I think a few years back. But even then, like, a lot of people didn't know her story. I think Queen Latifah being the first rap artist to have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame was impressive, right? She created the lane really to act and to rap and to host Grammy, shows, and to have her own talk show, like to do all these things. She was a visionary in her own right. I think Little Kim and Foxy Brown, they're both featured in the book. They were always pinned against each other. The dark Black-skinned women in rap during a time you didn't have many Black women rapping on such a large stage. So I feel like, just their existence was really important. Left Eye and TLC rapping and promoting safe sex with her condom over her eye. Like, I think it's just beautiful what women have done for hip hop. And I was really lucky that I was able to honor them. And my publisher was on board with that too. And they continue to do stuff. Megan Thee Stallion pushing body positivity is really, really important. And, her story, losing her mom, being a victim of violence at the hands of another rapper is really important. And it's hard. But I think it's also a mirror to show America what Black women go through. She's rich and famous, imagine the ones who aren't rich and famous, what they go through. So I think it's really great to have the representation both in hip hop and in this book.
Now, let me preface my next two questions by acknowledging that I'm a nerdy white guy who likes country music and is not as familiar as rap as he used to be. Growing up in Massachusetts, though, when I was 20 years younger, I did listen to Jammin' 94.5 all the time, yeah. Candace, and I used to be able to sing along with the songs, but that's no longer the case. But I did want to ask about two of the more controversial aspects to rap music. And so rap sometimes gets a bad rap, if you will, because of gangsta rap. I read about Ice-T's Cop Killer. You referenced that in your book. And I also read in the book about how the FBI asked the NWA to stop performing their F the Police song. So could you talk a little bit about gangster rap, both the good and the bad?
I mean, gangster rap is violent. It's very brutal and unapologetic. It's in your face. It's very detailed, very graphic. But so is racism. So is, Black people getting gunned down by police. So is, all these things in place to oppress and kill Black people. So I feel like it was born out of the rage of just being oppressed, right? NWA, F the Police was talking about racial profiling, just minding your business, and cops just come up to you and harass you because you're Black and you're young, and so you must be a criminal, right? And the frustration and the rage you experience because you get that every day. And how many times can you be a victim of something without wanting to lash out about it? So I get that gangster rap, does have a bad reputation, but I mean, look at where America came from, right? Black people are still suffering from slavery from hundreds of years ago, right? The systems in place are still there. And I feel like it's the same thing when Black Lives Matter came out. And it was like, no, but Blue Lives Matter. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, the oppressor wants to be oppressed when it's convenient for them. So I feel like rap really takes that on, and it still takes it on. And I feel like it's interesting. Like, I think 1991 is when NWA came out with that song, and it's 2021, and we're still experiencing the same things. We're still asking for the same injustices to stop. We're still asking for police to stop killing us. We're still asking to not be profiled on the street, and it's still happening. So if anything, gangster rap just shows you what Black people experience daily. And it is, hard to deal with, but so is being Black in America.
Great answer. And I also wanted to touch on one of the other sort of criticisms of rap music is that, and of course, this goes beyond the rap genre, but one of the criticisms is sort of explicit lyrics or overly sexual lyrics. And in your book, you write about Two Live Crew, who has the distinction of being the first musical act to have a parental advisory sticker on their record. And I was wondering if you could briefly talk about their story, which I thought was sort of interesting.
Yeah, so Me So Horny came out in 1989, and it was a huge hit, right? It's a dirty record, it's a filthy record, it's a catchy record, makes me want to dance. And it charted really well on the Billboard Hot 100. It reached like number 26. And I feel like, there's always been periods in music when people want to just ban certain types of music. But I think the difference with Two Live Crew is that white kids love this song, right? It's white kids in suburbia buying these albums, you know what I mean? Like repeating the lyrics. Then, conservative white people are in an uproar about it. So then I think in 1990, it became like legally obscene. Like they went to a court of law, like there was a Florida prosecutor saying we can't play this. If US record store companies and owners like sold the song or sold the album, they would get arrested. Uncle Luke was arrested for performing it. It was just crazy. And it was the first album to have the Tipper Gore parental advisory sticker on it as a warning for it being so vulgar and crazy. And it was a lot. Like people were on Phil Donahue debating this song. Like it was a whole thing. And I think it's important. We don't talk about Two Live Crew kind of taking that in, like being the martyrs for music censorship, performing that song, I'm gonna get arrested, I'm still gonna perform it anyway. So I think, and then everything got reversed and it was fine, but I just feel like it's so funny because I feel like since then rap has only gotten more vulgar and more sexual. Like Me So Horny is tame now compared to some of the stuff that's even on the radio. Like, yeah. So I think it was interesting that it was under attack, but it's because, it reached these audiences that was supposed to reach. White kids are supposed to be singing Me So Horny. And now look, a lot of the shows that I go to that I cover when it's rap, it's a lot of white people there. So I think it's interesting that people try to deny the cultural impact of it, but they just couldn't. You can't. But that was crazy.
Now, and then the flip side to that is that, rap has really allowed female artists to express sexuality in a positive way. And, some have, messages, feminist messages and female empowerment. So can you talk about some of these artists? And you touched on them briefly, but, like for modern day, I think of Cardi B, and yeah. Back in the day, I think of Salt and Pepper. So you want to expand on that?
I mean, with Cardi B, I think just owning who she is. People think she's not educated enough, she's not pretty enough, she's not talented enough, that she doesn't care, right? I was a stripper, I used to rob guys for money, now I'm on a reality television show, and now I'm winning Grammys for my rap album. Like, she's always embraced who she is. And even if you're not the biggest fan of her, I think you have to respect her path, right? And all she's been through to get to where she is. I think Salt and Pepper too, let's talk about sex and talking about safe sex and doing pushing, being sexual and having these weird haircuts and these big neon leather jackets and just owning who they are. I think of the same thing with, Megan Thee Stallion talking about, being tall. I am 6 feet tall. Thank you, Megan. I am a stallion too. I appreciate you, right? Seeing, a girl like that, who's a dark-skinned Black girl with this platform, embracing who she is, that always meant a lot to me. Whenever I see a woman rapper, just existing in rap, I know it's going to be hard for you. It's going to be difficult. You're going to have a lot of, sexism and misogyny, and you're not going to be treated the way male rappers are treated. But just for you to be there and to be in the booth and to grind and to make these records, to make girls like me feel visible is very important. I'm grateful that we have these ladies in rap to elevate us.
Now, you wrote, for whatever reason, I sometimes looked at him as not a serious artist, but he actually had such such an impact on rap music and really music in general at the time, is MC Hammer. And you mentioned how MC Hammer really brought rap into the mainstream. And you also noted in your profile on Nas that he was criticized for going quote unquote mainstream. I guess my question, I don't know how to ask this, but well, what does it mean to go mainstream? It seems like the term has a negative connotation in the rap industry. Is it something like once you go mainstream, you're no longer considered edgy? What are your thoughts on mainstream?
I think it's it's a lot of different things, but I think a big part of it is exclusivity. Like, I know this artist and this artist is small, and this artist sees me, and now a lot of people know because they can't relate. I think it's an exclusivity. Fans feel a certain artists because they aren't as popular or well known. Mainstream comes with bigger audiences, it comes with bigger record labels, more exposure, larger budgets, larger resources. Sometimes people change, right? And I think sometimes it's just an artist's natural inclination to evolve, right? Like you're gonna change, you're gonna evolve, and you wanna be mainstream, you wanna reach the masses, right? I feel like that's always the point. You wanna touch a lot of people with your art. So I feel like it's had a negative connotation for a long time. And I think now, you know, people are on Instagram or TikTok and they do something viral and then they're mainstream, they blow up. Some get record deals, some do this, some do that. I feel like it's not as tough to become. I mean, it's still hard, but I feel like with the internet and with social media, it's easier to crack to become more well known. So I feel like it's not frowned upon in the way it was 20, 30 years ago.
Right. Now, a couple of trends that I sort of picked up on reading your book. One of them is that a lot of rap artists started off as members of groups or duos, trios, large groups, and something else that I noticed is that a lot of artists, even back in the day, collaborated with one another. I didn't realize that there was so much collaboration in rap. I thought that was more of a recent thing. And I liked one of the weirdest and most successful collaborations was between Run DMC and the rock band Aerosmith for the Walk This Way. And that really put Run DMC on the map, and they were the first rap act to have their music video played on MTV and graced the cover of Rolling Stone. So it was a pretty big deal. I was just wondering, do you have a favorite collaboration, a favorite rap collaboration that you really like?
Oh man, I loved Watch the Throne with Jay-Z and Kanye. That came out 10 years ago. I think the anniversary is this week. Like that came out 10 years ago, and I love them together on that record. Stylistically, they're so different, but they really complement each other well. I love that record. I think, I love it when women collaborate too. I love when Cardi B and Megan did WAP. I don't really care for the song, but I love the fact that they got together and just rapped and embraced each other, because I think with women in hip hop, it's always a competition. So I love seeing, them collaborate whenever they can. I love that. I'm trying to think of other good collaborations. Little Kim's Ladies Night. God, that was like a long time, 97 maybe? And it was like her and Missy and Angie Martinez and Left Eye and all these beautiful Black women in this music video on this song talking about how dope they are. I thought it was really amazing. I think anything that kind of collaborations, I think with Aerosmith and Run DMC, it worked well because it was polar opposites, right? Like, these rap guys from New York, you have, these rock guys from, I think they're from Boston, to collaborate and do this massive record, and no one could predict how great it would be. But I think now we're looking at rap artists who complement each other very well. I think the collaborative notion has kind of shifted to that more so recently. I don't think I could think of any rap collaborations recently. Can you?
I really can't.
The audience, I don't know.
Yeah, let us know in the chat if you think of any folks. So Candace, I guess this is more of a factual question and less of a opinion question, although perhaps it is, perhaps it isn't. But who was the most decorated rapper of all time? Who was the Bill Russell or the Tom Brady of rap? Who's the one with the most accolades and the most awards?
I think Jay-Z would be the one with the most Grammys. So the only award I used as a measure in the book are Grammys, right? So he's the one I think with the most Grammys as a rapper. And I think, it might be him. And I thought about it for a while, but in 2017, he put out 444. And he's 50 years old. So to see someone in that age range, right, talking about his career, he's been rapping for 30 years. And to come out with a record that's so well received, it dominated so much discourse. He's talking to Bill Maher about it, I think, or was it David Letterman? He talked to some late night host about it. And then he was, in the New York Times, he's doing all these things. And it was this whole movement kind of when the album came out. So I think for him to be so relevant in 2017 is incredible, honestly. And I can't think of a rapper in his age range who is as relevant as he is. Right, so that was a lot. It was a
Yeah.
lot, that record, but it was a good record.
I think Jay-Z was the right answer for that as well. But what do I know? But you're right about the Grammy Awards, and you said he was rap's first billionaire, huh? How about that?
Yeah, hip hop's first billionaire. I think Kanye's a billionaire too now.
Yeah.
And somebody else became a billionaire. It feels kind of dirty to say that, right? And that's also part of it too. Like, you have people starving on the street, and then you have rappers and celebrities hoarding billions of dollars. So I go back and forth with that, especially during COVID. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. Now, who in your view is the most underappreciated rapper of all time? And again, I don't know a rap history particularly well, but of the 50 that were in your book, I went with Lauryn Hill, who I know she only put out one solo album.
Yeah.
But I think it was like one of the best rap albums of all time. First rapper to win Album of the Year at the Grammys. And
Wow,
the first
is
rapper
that crazy?
Yeah. First female rapper to go certified platinum. So what are your thoughts on my opinion, and who is your most underappreciated rapper of all time?
See, I think Lauryn Hill had the one album out, but I think she still gets her respect. She will perform, show up 17 hours late, and people will still sell out the venue. Right? I still think she gets respect in that way. I think she is appreciated for what she gave. That was 1999. That's crazy. The album came out. So I think she's appreciated. I'm gonna call her underappreciated. I think for me, I got to put Nate Dogg in the book, and I think no one really talks about his contributions to rap, because he's a singer, really, but people don't talk about him when it comes to singing or R&B. When it comes to rap, he does hooks and choruses. I don't think people really give him his respect, right? I think he helped shape the West Coast sound alongside Snoop. You know what I mean? Like, and Tupac and the whole Death Row iteration. So I think for him, that was mine.
Yeah. And your book was factual, and also I think it was very positive. But I will ask you, you just mentioned West Coast, and we only have 20 minutes left, but can you briefly discuss the whole West Coast, East Coast thing, rivalry, for those who are unfamiliar with it?
I mean, that was, I guess it was 95, 96, when it was the Tupac versus Biggie feud. And I was so young watching that. And I was like, I don't know what's happening. And Biggie and Tupac were friends. And then, Tupac thought that Biggie set him up to get shot. Then Biggie released Who Shot Ya, and it kind of went left, and then Tupac did hit him up. And it was just crazy. Like, the disrespect they kind of both showed each other was insane. And it was really intense, and it ended violently. Like, both of them lost their lives, and whether they related to each other, that, both those murders, I'm like, they're going to be linked forever. But that was really hard. And I feel like there's no feud comparable to that in music history, honestly. So it's a lot. It was a lot then. And since then, bridges have been kind of melded. I think people looked at that time and realized how unnecessary it was. And it's hard too, just thinking about how young they were. They were both in their 20s when they died. So it was a lot to kind of reflect on. And I mentioned both of them. Biggie's on the cover of the book. And I mentioned both in the book. And I feel like, music, they contributed so much. And I think about what would have happened if they were able to contribute more. So that was a really dark time in rap, a violent time in rap. I bought a book about the history of Death Row Records and just the violence and the gang feuds and the murders. Like, it's a lot, and I'm glad that doesn't really happen anymore. There's beefs in rap, but no one's getting shot. Really.
So on a lighter note, let's go to a fun question. Which rap musician would you like to see make a comeback, or which rap group would you like to see reunite? I know you wrote in your book that, and I know your book is over a year old now at this point, but you were writing at the time, and then you probably wrote it at least a few months in advance of it being published. But you wrote at the time that Eric B. and Rakim recently reunited, and that there were rumors surrounding maybe Outkast or 3 6 Mafia getting back together. So who would you like to see make a comeback or sort of reunite?
Well, 3 6 Mafia is performing at festivals this year, and I really want to see them. I've seen Juicy J by himself, but them together on stage is going to be phenomenal. I would love to see Outkast reunite. I've seen Big Boy, because Big Boy tours a lot, but Andre 3000 doesn't. So I think if they reunite, that'd be really great. trying to think if any other groups I really want to see reunited. Well, last night was the Lox versus Dipset, and I think it was kind of cool to see two hip hop groups like that reunite on the same stage to kind of battle each other, because they've been in the game for so long. But those are, I think, my choices. Do you have any choices, Robert?
No, I mean, I would say Outkast, but I have to think. So you turn the tables on me, Candace. Let me think a little bit more about that one, and I'll get back to you. So, and then I also, another trend that I saw in a lot of your profiles was crossover appeal that a lot of these artists have, where they're not just talented musically, but they're also talented actors. And I won't bore everyone with all the details, but Eve, Ice-T, LL Cool J, Snoop Dogg, Queen Latifah, Tupac, Ice Cube, list goes on and on. And then we also saw the reverse in a few cases, where like Lauryn Hill with movies and Drake with TV shows, started on the screen and then became rap stars. But why do you think that? Why are so many rap artists? Why do so many of them turn into movie stars?
I think it's kind of natural, right? They have the stardom, they have the following, they have the notoriety. People know who they are. They see a name, they recognize. You're gonna go see the film. I think that's a big part of it. But I also think that, these artists have been telling stories for so long that people assume it's going to translate on the big screen to tell stories authentically there. I think it's a natural curiosity to see how it changes, with different mediums. So I feel like, a lot of artists do it because it just feels natural to them. I'm sure they have a lot of people telling them that they should do it. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. But I think it's a natural curiosity there, right? You have the built-in fan base. It's going to draw money and draw people out to the seats in the theaters. So I feel like it's very natural.
Now, and you talked about this about a half hour ago, but in the last couple of pages of your book, you list 20 additional rappers who didn't quite make the cut. You said that your editor wanted you to only do 10, and you pushed to do 20. And so my question is, who was number 51? Who is the rap artist that you wanted to do a full profile on, but didn't quite make the cut?
Probably Master P. He's the first mention in the back. Because he had his No Limit entourage, and he was doing movies and selling videos and investing in basketball teams and doing reality shows, and it was a lot. He did a lot for hip hop in terms of showing how much it can branch out to all these other different areas. So I think his influence is still being felt in hip hop today.
Now I noticed that Sean Diddy Combs didn't make your list. Biggie did, but Sean didn't, and that got me thinking. Have you received any blowback from readers who felt you either snubbed somebody, or maybe the opposite? Maybe they felt that you included someone that you shouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, for Puffy, I think for Diddy, he's not really an influential rapper. I think in terms of business models and like fashion and producing tracks and managing other artists, he's very influential in that way. But as a rapper himself, I was like, but I do love him. I do love him. For me, I think the biggest ones were probably Megan and Cardi. They're too new, they're too young. Why are they in the book? They haven't paid their dues yet. And then some people, I think, I'm trying to think of other people I didn't include. I didn't include Gucci Mane or Jeezy. People wondered why. J. Cole didn't get his own page, and I've had people ask me why. And I think it's great because that means people care about, what I think and about this book and about the impact of rap overall. But I think it's great because it's so subjective. This is my list, and your list is probably completely different, or you might have a couple artists in common, but it's not the same. And that's the beauty of music, not just rap, but music overall, is what you enjoy and what you love. So I appreciate all the feedback, though.
And Candace, this is probably a dumb question, and I hope I'm not like overlooking something obvious, but are the artists the order in which the artists are presented, is that random, or that's not like 1 to 50 or 50 to 1? That's it looked like it was sort of alphabetical, but then so I mean, in all of the series, there's other books. There's like 50 I think queer musicians who changed the world, and like other iterations of this kind of book. They're not rated. It's not, number 1's the best, 50's the worst. It's just randomly assembled in the book. Yeah, and let me ask you another question, sort of inside baseball, so to speak. Really love the illustrations in the book.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the illustrations are so large and colorful, and they really complement your profile. So definitely shout out, shout out to your illustrator, Michelle. You want to briefly talk about the artwork?
Well, they had an in-house illustrator already. She's done work with Hardy Grant before. They tapped her to do it. And I picked all the artists and I had to give feedback on every picture. So every picture, you know, I was like, you know, do this, do that. Some of them she nailed right away. Kanye, she drew him in one take and was like, this is Kanye. And I was like, how'd you do that so fast? But like for Jay-Z, I made her give him the dreads because he's growing his hair out now, and we put a beard on Drake and a little side part, like try to make them the most updated versions of themselves. And it's a lot because you want to get it all correct. And it's hard, you know, to capture the essence of somebody. She did Wu-Tang, and I think she nailed Old Dirty Bastard. Like it came out so dope. But yeah, she's a fantastic illustrator, and she took all my criticisms and feedback with grace and just, you know, worked on it really, really hard. And I think they actually make the book, right? It's eye-catching because of her pictures. So I'm really grateful, this is Tupac, that I was able to work with her. She did a fantastic job.
I agree. I think your editor referred to it as like a gift book. And I do think it really is like a perfect gift book for anyone in your life who likes rap music, that's for sure. So let's turn it over to the audience at this point, as we've got about 15 minutes to go. So folks, feel free in the chat or the Q&A to type in some questions. And we already do have some questions. Let me see here. P would like to know, oh, interesting question. Must rap be considered only a Black genre? Can it or has it successfully crossed racial and cultural boundaries? I hope so, since rap tells so many stories. And I think at this point we're obligated to mention that Eminem is in the book.
And I mentioned Beastie Boys too.
Oh, yeah.
I think, you know, I understand what P is saying, right? It's transcended so many cultures, so many races, you know, so many demographics, so many, you know, fans, young and old. I think it's in the heart. I think it's really important to remember that it stems from Black people. And I say that just because, you know, you see rapping all over the world, and you see it, you know, in different places, but they are places that will embrace Black culture, but not Black people. Right? Places that will say we love hip hop, we love rap, but you know, they treat dark-skinned people differently than lighter-skinned people, right? Like I feel like it's important to remember that it came from Black people. And I think that's really the heart of it. And I get what she's saying, right? Because you know, anybody can listen to it. You know, I listen to country and pop and rap and rock. But I think it's really important for this particular genre that we acknowledge that it came from Black people. And that's what I wanted to do with the book, honestly, is to kind of center that story. I think so often it gets lost, and you know, people who replicate it who aren't Black, people who, you know, buy tickets to the shows and will engage with the culture, but at a distance. So that's how I look at it. But yeah, I think it's great that people all over the world embrace it, you know? So thank you for that question, Peter. It's really thoughtful.
Yeah, P says, thank you, good to know. Let's see here. Let's go with Jamie's question next. Jamie says, I've heard Gil Scott Heron, referred to as the godfather of rap. How has the spoken word influenced the creation of rap?
Yeah, so he was the revolution will not be televised. That was him. It's intertwined, all of it's poetry, honestly. That's how I look at it. You know, even the rappers who I don't like, the mumble rappers, or the rappers with the shitty lyrics, or the rappers who can't really rap, I look at it as poetry and, you know, storytelling ultimately, right? It was, this kind of storytelling was born in West Africa, you know, centuries ago. And to kind of have it be, to transform into rap is just, it's a lineage almost. So I think, you know, with storytelling in Africa to, you know, spoken word poetry to rap now, it's all about that African lineage, that storytelling lineage that's shaped the genre. So it's all intertwined. And then they had, what was it, Deaf Poetry Jam? I don't know if it's still on, but that was, I don't know if you know that, Robert. That was, it was Mos Def's creation, and he was on HBO when rappers would go on and do their songs. You know, Kanye went, Common went, like, it's always been intertwined. That's a really good point. Thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you.
Yeah, and Jamie also, let's see, Jamie is critiquing your background during your video. She says, a shout out to your mug and the skull pillow. That was in the Mass Center for the book video, so that's awesome.
Thank you. I have skull decorations in the house. Here's one right here. Okay, you know, got it on my head wrap.
Yeah, all right, I like it. I apologize for any mispronunciation. Ronit says her first question is, what is the best way to read your book?
So I don't know how you guys feel about Amazon, but that's probably the quickest and easiest way to buy the book. But it's available like Barnes and Noble and Target and Walmart. You can buy it the Brookline Booksmith. The last time I was there, they had it in stock if you want to do more local places. But Ronit, I can also send you a copy. Thank you so much for coming.
All right, some of your fan club is here, Candace. And I would just note, and I would encourage you to buy Candace's book, because I think it's better. It's a better book to own than to borrow, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I will say that the Tewksbury Library does own a copy of Candace's book. So there you go.
Go on
Candace.
to Tewksbury Library, get yourself a copy of the book. It's fine. Thank you, Robin.
Yeah, no problem. You're welcome. Folks, I would encourage you. We still have about 5 more minutes left for audience Q&A, so keep getting them in. And I apologize, I might have missed one or two. I will get to those. Candace, I wanted to ask you a question, though. What do you see as the future of rap? So how do you see the genre continuing to sort of advance over the next 5 to 10 years? What's next?
I mean, it's hard to kind of predict it. I think I love the fact that these young kids are coming out and they're being honest about depression, they're being honest about anxiety and about addiction and drug usage and, you know, sadness. I love that. I love that little Uzi, you know, wears skirts and has face piercings and, you know, is very androgynous. I love that little Nas is openly being gay and finding pride in that. You know what I mean? He's faced so much hate and controversy just for being who he is and expressing that. But I love that he's there because I think it's important for younger fans to see themselves, not just hear themselves, but to actually see themselves in the music. I think also the fact that DaBaby made some homophobic comments was a week ago, and already he's lost so much money, so much money has been lost because he made those disgusting comments, and he's being dropped off at festivals. And I think there's an awareness now that's not okay to do. And I think he said what he said because he was like, oh, whatever, like I'm a rapper, I can say what I want, there'll be no repercussions. But now, like the backlash is so strong, I was surprised by it. So I think that awareness, that homophobia is not okay and not welcome in hip hop is really important to note. We still have a long way to go, clearly, but I think just him getting, you know, the backlash from it is a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Now, Candace, earlier I asked you to name, you know, your 4 or 5 top most influential rappers of all time. Now I'm going to ask you the same question, but tweak it. Instead of asking you about the rappers, I want to ask you about the rap songs. So do you have,
that is so hard.
I know. I started with a hard question. I'm going to end with a hard question. You know, want to name some of the more influential rap songs. You know, if you can't give us 5, give us 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh God. I think personally speaking, one of my all-time favorite rap songs is probably Juicy by the Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah.
Like, it was his victory lap on Wax, talking about how he, you know, overcame poverty and selling drugs to having, you know, drivers and buying his mom a house and taking care of her bills. Like, that was 94, I want to say. So, I mean, 94, 95. One of the best hip hop songs I think ever. And Puffy produced it. So there you go. That's your man. I love that. I'm trying to think of other really good songs that stand out to me. Oh man, it's hard. I think when Eminem came out with My Name Is, like that was his breakthrough song, and I think it kind of garnered in that time where he was like the biggest rap star, and he was so controversial and pushing all these boundaries and, you know, getting all this backlash too for being, you know, vulgar and saying some crazy shit. So I think that was a good breakthrough song for him. Cardi B, right, Bodak Yellow, that broke so many records. That record was inescapable for a long time. And it did really, really well. I'm trying to think of other songs. Oh man, it's so hard. But those are a few, I think.
Now, Ronit asked you where we can purchase your book. So let me ask you this. You're a prolific writer. I read your bio. You've been published all over the place. And I know that you are in education. It's your primary field. But you know, where can we read you now? And any plans for future book?
You know, I just moved, so I'm gonna not write a book for a little while and try to get my life together. But I'm a monthly album critic for Paste magazine, so I'm doing some stuff for them, and I'm supposed to review the new Killers record that's coming out next week. I don't really have anything on the horizon right now, just because it's a crazy transition. But I think I've done a few pieces for Spin magazine over the last year. I'm so proud of all those interviews I've done. Like I've done, I think, 4 interviews for them, and I'm really proud of how they came out. I think that's a really good place to start. And I'm trying to think of other things I'm really proud of. I've done a few things with Entertainment Weekly that I like. And I've done some stuff with MTV too. That I like. I got to interview Juicy J for MTV. I got to talk about Lil Wayne's cultural influence for MTV. I got to talk about The Weeknd. I love The Weeknd for MTV. So that's a really good place to start too. But the most current stuff for me is with Pace.
All right, got it. Ronit asked another question. She says she already owns the book, but she's wondering in what order to read the book. Do you think to read it in the order, or can it be read in any order? I guess.
Yeah, it's hard because it's not in any particular order.
Right.
But I think, you know, starting with Sugar Hill Gang and Grandmaster Flash and Public Enemy to see where rap came from, to see where it is now would be really good. I think starting with those 3 artists and kind of just working from there would be great.
All right. Well, we're coming up on 8 o'clock. I think
this is so much fun. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you all for staying and for asking questions and for coming tonight. Thank you all.
Yeah,
amazing.
very, very engaged audience, and I do apologize if I missed any. I think I got everyone though. So before we officially wrap though, Candace, anything else you want to say to your live audience before we go?
Just thank you. Thank you for even coming tonight. The people who didn't know rap wanted to learn more about it. It's amazing. So thank you guys so much and for being so engaged, for staying for the whole hour. You know what I mean? Like, people are busy. People have lives and jobs. So just spending an hour here with me means so much. So thank you all.
Yeah, very good turnout.
Thank you, Robert, for inviting me to do this talk. It's been so much fun.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, Candace. I mean, my honor, my pleasure, and you know, thank you for, in the midst of moving, agreeing to do this on this date. Wonderful, and a lot of positive comments in the chat. So thank you all as well. So look for for those watching live, look for an email from me tomorrow morning with a link to this recording, a link to a feedback survey, and the Amazon link to purchase Candace's book. Yeah, let's wrap it there. So thank you all so much. Thank you, Candace. Fantastic job as expected. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their evening. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Candace. Bye-bye.